meeting to order at 5:30. You're all caught up now. All right. We need to pull item 12H. We are moving that to February. It is one of the first readings of Board Policy and Administrative Regulation 5117, Inter-District Attendance. So stay tuned for February for that. Can I get a motion to approve the agenda as amended?
I move.
Can I get a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries 4-0 with one absence, and let the record show that Trustee Nelson is absent tonight. All right, we will now convene to close session. into order at 6:07. Can I get a motion to approve case number 2425-02-SD?
All motion.
Can I get a second?
I second.
Roll call?
Trustee Johnson, Trustee Brown,
Yes.
Trustee Martin,
Aye.
Trustee Wing.
Yes. Thank you. And now I would like to bring up our Pack 1 Cub Scouts from Rona Park. Come on up. And they are going to help us with the flag salute today.
Attention, may the audience please rise. Hand salute. If not in uniform, put your hand over your heart. Will you please join me? Will you please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The audience may please be seated.
Okay, it's not board member comment time, but Pack 1 holds a special place in my heart because that's what Andrew was when he was a little Cubby Scout. And I got to be invited to their pack meeting or their den meeting last week to talk to them about the importance of being an elected official. And they had some great ideas of if they were on the school board, what kind of policies they would make and what they would do. And so Rochelle said we didn't have anyone to do the flag salute, and so they wanted to come out. So thank you for coming out, guys. That was fun.
Thank you, parents.
We do have one public comment tonight, so I would like to invite James Nelson up to the podium.
Is that better? Okay. Where I learned many skills I'll be speaking about this evening. Unlike when I was a scout, today's Cub Scouting program is open to both boys and girls and is diverse and inclusive, welcoming families from all backgrounds. Cub Scouting supports students by building leadership, teamwork, responsibility, and citizenship in a structured, supportive environment. These are the same skills our schools work hard to develop every day, and they are taught in settings that emphasize respect, inclusion, and belonging. Research shows that participating in structured youth programs like Scouting is associated with higher academic engagement, improved behavior, and stronger peer relationships. Scouting also emphasizes practical life skills such as communication, collaboration, critical thinking, and service, skills that help students succeed in classrooms and communities. Today, more than 1 million youth nationwide participate in Scouting programs, including 580,000 Cub Scouts, reflecting both the scale of the program and its broad appeal across communities. Importantly, Cub Scouting operates on a fully volunteer-led basis. Packs are run by parents and community members who donate their time to support students. With that in mind, I respectfully ask the board to consider continued or expanded access to school facilities after hours when appropriate. The use of existing school spaces allows these programs to operate safely, remain accessible to families, and maintain a strong connection between students and their school, all with minimal or no cost to the district. Additionally, we have prepared a one-page informational flyer that includes a QR code. You should have, was that passed out? For signups. We respectfully ask that the board consider allowing this flyer to be shared with families at the schools, either digitally via Parent Square or in a hard copy form, which tends to have more success. So parents can easily access information and register their children if they are interested. In closing, supporting Cub Scouting is not about adding a new program. It's about strengthening a proven, volunteer-driven relationship partnership that reinforces CRP's USD's goals for student development, family engagement, and community involvement. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you. All right. Next, we have special recognitions and presentations. We are going to take a quick 5-minute break because we need to get the Google Meet up for the next presentation. All right, so 5-minute break. All right, we will call the meeting back to order at 6:18. Ferdy, yes, your turn.
Hi, everybody. I'm going to try that again. Anyway, I just wanted to thank you both for being here. And just to set the context, back in September, we did a district-wide survey. A lot of it revolved around leadership. And is it Laura?
Mhm.
Laura and Ashton are here to share the results, and I'm excited for everyone to hear them. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you. So appreciate the opportunity to share and are just really grateful for the chance to partner with Good Toddy Roanoke Park. It's been fun. And as you will see shortly, there are some really promising findings, such a strong foundation to keep building on in terms of staff well-being in your district. So as was mentioned, I'm Laura. I work at Educators Thriving with Ashton, and we work toward staff well-being with a variety of levels, one of them being surveying well-being and supporting leaders to understand how people are experiencing their jobs so that that data can inform where we focus, where we shift, what we keep doing exactly the way we're doing it because it's working for people. So tonight I will give you an overview of what we heard from staff in the district and just a couple data points to continue on your way in terms of responding to staff voices and continuously listening. Our general cycle of engagement and support is a fairly standard continuous improvement cycle, but just to iterate or to narrate it, we assess staff well-being in September. Then we look at what are some evidence-based feasible changes that might be available based on what staff said mattered to them and what's feasible for each district. And then we figure out how might each partner be able to respond at a district or site level, gather additional feedback on how those changes are landing, right? We don't just listen once, we listen ongoing and respond again. And eventually, when possible, we love to reassess to see what, if anything, has shifted in terms of staff well-being. So this is really the baseline assessment of where folks are starting. All the data flows from these 7 predictive factors of educator well-being. This was a survey measure developed in partnership with the American Federation of Teachers. Started with 500 items and narrowed it down further and further into the most statistically significant and predictive set, which is what we asked staff this fall. And they bucket into these 7. So responsive leadership and supportive culture, as well as foundational supports, that outside conditions around us, as well as 5 individual mindsets and dispositions that we all bring to the work and support one another in to sustain ourselves in a very joyful and rewarding, yet also stressful profession. In terms of participation district-wide, I had great response rates across a wide variety of roles and sites. People were required to select their site and their role so that we knew a bit about who was who. All other demographic questions were optional. So high level, in terms of the 7 factors, we saw an average of 5.1, which means most people agreed or strongly agreed with items related to responsive leadership and supportive culture in the district. The small dot on that line is the nationwide average. So as you can see, a healthy margin above average on leadership and culture, as well as foundational supports. Really great to see high growth orientation and acceptance, as well as adaptability and personal well-being. Depletion is about on par with the nationwide average. It turns out we can feel really supported in this work and still be quite tired from it, which we know, and yet sometimes it can be affirming to see in the numbers. So across different role groups, again, we can be supported and satisfied in our jobs. That's the top set of factor averages. You'll see a variety of satisfaction averages broken down by subgroup in the district. We can simultaneously be experiencing a lot of stress in the work. So when we look at satisfaction and stress, we are hoping to see that people are feeling at least equally satisfied as they feel stressed, ideally more so, more satisfied than stressed because of the supports that they're getting to move through the inevitable stressors of this job. We would love to eliminate stress, but also we work with students and people every day. So there are elements of the job that cause stress, yet there are ways we can support ourselves and others within the system to move through those. So again, really good to see a spread between satisfaction and stress for a number of groups, with our eye, of course, on certificated staff in this one. In terms of responsive leadership and culture, you already saw the above average, factor average, but a few highlights stood out around administrators expressing trust in staff, problem solving around student needs, integrating people's input, staff's ability to share challenges without being judged. That is notably above nationwide average. A really robust staff culture of supporting one another in what's challenging in this work, and then getting information in time to plan. When we do factor averages, count those who answered agree or strongly agree, so that medium green or dark green. We actually don't include the somewhat agree, that light green, but we do hope over time through shifts to figure out what's working for a lot of people and how might we bring them over into the agreement category. In terms of foundational supports, people really feeling a sense of opportunity to perform up to their potential district-wide. And then the other three are the structural conditions, professional development opportunities, adequate staffing, and total compensation. Total compensation, that level of agreement is slightly below nationwide average. And so that is one area where now that you have, as you'll see, a strong foundation of leadership and collaboration in place, it's an exciting time to be able to feed some of these topics into that collaborative process to see what might we do to see some higher levels of agreement around them. Equipped educator responses were quite high. Those are those 5 mindsets and dispositions I mentioned at the beginning. People are accepting emotions that are challenging at work without being derailed. That is no small feat, especially with a bunch of eyes on us in front of a classroom. Flexible when things don't go their way, having hobbies outside of work that energize them. That's what people tend to think of when they think of well-being. It is one factor, that personal well-being on our survey, but it's just one of the 7. So good to see that being high. And then embracing new strategies into practice and work. So strong growth orientation towards the roles that they're in. Depletion is, again, even with the robust leadership support, is about on par with our nationwide averages. So there is a high level or high percentage of folks who are exhausted at the end of the day, or report feeling so busy thinking about other things, they're not able to enjoy the moment. So sort of an item around presence. And what that reminds us is that these structural supports and these key foundations that shift how we experience the work can really influence our depletion, as well as our own ability to support ourselves on the job. So an eye on depletion in the data as well. The additional portion of items that we asked in Cotati Roanoke Park, as well as a number of other districts nationwide this year, addressed labor management collaboration. So some samples from what we asked related to that topic include whether at the school site, union and school administrators were working together on shared goals. So you'll see there strong agreement, as well as working towards shared goals at the district level. In terms of retention intentions, some of these other wonderful data points that I've gotten to share so far are translating into very high levels of agreement and strong agreement that individuals in the district plan to stay an educator for at least 5 years, as well as in the district for at least 5 years. There is a gap between people desiring to stay and their perception that retaining them is a priority in the district. We do typically see that gap, and the degree to which it is a gap varies, and we're always looking for ways to support our district partners in closing that gap, because we do know that the people who come and agree to work with Educators Thriving really deeply care about retaining staff. So how do we make it so that the teacher and staff perception matches that intention? Bright spots in terms of a high level agreement among all those factor averages and some select items I shared include that level of flexibility among staff, very high level agreement that administrators respond to requests directly, and that administrators tell staff they're trusted to do their job. It was a bit hard to pick out some bright spots because truly there were many, especially on leadership and culture here. Some areas to explore include 62% agreeing that they get relevant information in time to plan. We often ask, what does relevant mean? what info do you want, as well as what does in time mean, to understand what staff are seeking, and continuing to address the difficult emotions at work. So how do we get all folks with that strong emotional foundation that many of your staff do seem to bring? And last but not least, 43% agreeing that district leaders take concerns seriously. There's a very high level of agreement related to site level. We do tend to see a gap towards districts in this item. And so we do, again, like to figure out what might that look like from the district office when you're not at school sites every day. What might that look like to show folks that you are taking concerns seriously? The structural priorities we touched on previously include total compensation. That level of agreement is low. Adequate staffing to meet student needs. Again, with that one, we typically inquire around what student subgroups are you worried about meeting the needs of, to kind of understand the layers of concern that staff are bringing to that adequacy definition. And then for professional development, meeting my needs, that's a great one to call attention to, especially because the growth orientation of staff and educators in the district is so high. How might we meet that high growth orientation with ongoing and evolving and responsive professional development opportunities, whether that's at the site level or offsite, as everybody has a different combination. Again, back to the labor management collaboration, we asked folks about their level of involvement with the union, and then the 3 factors related to how they perceive the union in general, how they perceive school level labor management collaboration, and how they perceive district level labor management collaboration. So as you can observe, whether they have no interaction, a little, some, or a lot, the more interaction they have, the more collaboration they observe and report. So we see that increasing perception of collaboration the closer people get to the conversations that are taking place. And related to collaboration, this time not specific to the union, just in general, we asked people how many hours a week they tend to collaborate with their colleagues. And nationwide, your district included, we see that the more time they report having to collaborate with their peers, the higher levels of well-being they experience and report on the job. So in general, an upward trend related to leadership and culture, and especially foundational supports when people are saying that they have time to work on professional issues and of course, share those challenges that we saw in the earlier item with their colleagues. And that is the final summary. Wanted to give you the flyover today, but happy to take any questions, or if there's anything you'd like me to add, let me know.
Great, thank you. I did have one question. So you were saying, like, in some of them, like, what does responsive mean, or what does just in time mean? So do you guys go back and dig into that, or is that something we do, or how do we figure out those?
We did provide a lot of qualitative themes and ideas to get started, and also are always happy to provide some of the questions I referenced for you to dig deeper on areas that are prioritized to pay a bit more attention to or dig into further.
Okay, great.
Nobody likes to have a 5-hour board meeting, so this is not all the
No,
slides.
that's fine. We figured that part, but
It is substance.
great. Trustee Johnson?
Yes, so 489 respondents, what's the percentage of everybody you sent out? Is that half? 3/4? How many were the total?
I think we received over 60% response, if I'm correct.
Oh, that's not individuals, that's response. Oh, gosh, okay.
Do you know that one off the cuff by chance, Ashton?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
I believe Maite, when we shared it back, said it was near 70% of the total response rate. We don't know we don't track individual data, we don't collect names, so we can't say for certain who exactly of all of the staff members responded, but it was very strong. We aim for over 50% and definitely reached that, it sounds like.
I didn't catch the percentage. What was that?
Can you repeat that again, Ashton?
70? Okay,
I
thank you.
believe that's what Maite said when we first shared the data back.
Approaching.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Trustee Brown?
No questions, but a comment. In a perception that retention isn't a high priority for us. I would like to make sure that that does get changed, because retention is a big priority. It really makes a difference. And then just thinking about professional development, that got a low score, and wanting to make sure that we're hitting the target with that.
That was a bit muffled for me, so if there was a question, if someone could restate it.
No, we were just talking that we want to put effort into retention and then the professional development part.
Great.
And I have one more comment too. I'd like to thank you for this survey. It would really come in handy for us when we go and talk to our legislatures too about, it's not just our opinion, but it's our district's opinion that, compensation and burnout with our educators and staff in our district. Thank you.
We would be so delighted to know that it was contributing to such advocacy.
I just want to mention that each of the principals shared this data, their site level data, with their school sites, and they already started to generate some ideas on how to address some of the areas that they were scoring lower in and celebrate the areas that they had good scores in. So I really want to thank the site leaders for the work that they've been doing around this. So, and thank the Educators Thriving organization for their support in this work. And we'll be chatting more, I'm sure.
Great.
Yeah. And you all have a really wonderful foundation in place, again, of that collaboration at every level. That it's so much easier that way, much smoother to take those topics that do jump out, bring them into the collaborative spaces you've worked really hard to build to date, and get to some shared ideas and shared solutions quickly. So congratulations on laying just a really great foundation to be able to move forward in areas that do jump out to you to keep going.
Great. Well, thank you very much. We appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you all.
I'm expecting Kirby to jump. There he is. All right. Next, we have review of the revised 2026-2029 after-school education and safety program plan. So I'd like to invite up our Director of Expanded Learning, Elena DeMars.
Okay, arrows. Hi.
Hi.
Okay, every 3 years we have the pleasure of renewing our ACES grant that is for Thomas Page and John Reed, and we get to write a new program plan. So this was our efforts here. So I'm going to give you some highlights for that.
Can I ask you a question first?
Yes.
Because I said I was going to do this every time. Who gets this report? Why do you have to, who's requesting it?
CDE.
Okay.
Yep.
And then you have to give it to them, and then if we don't give it to them, what would happen?
We do not get the grant. So
Okay.
we don't get funded. So it's an application process. So we have to submit the application, and part of the application is writing this lovely grant, which consists of 12 prompts, and they don't change the prompts ever. But we change our program in Evolve. So this is our process.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So you would qualify this as a useful report that you do.
This is absolutely, it's a required and useful report,
Yep. Thanks.
and super fun to do. All right, so what is ACES? ACES is a state-funded program that we receive about $305,000 for. It is to provide after-school programming, so there's a little bit of a distinction there. And Dr. Ituri has asked me to explain the difference between our ACES program and our ELOP funding. So ELOP is a much more generous fund that we receive. We receive about $2.5 million for our ELOP funding, but we may use our ELOP funding for, and it's expanded learning, but for the term that we use is ELOP. We can use that for before school, after school, intersessions, summer breaks. We have a lot more flexibility to use our expanded learning funding. ACES is specific for specific sites and for after school only. We receive funding for our ACES programs currently at John Reed and Thomas Page, and those programs are open every day that school is in operation until 6 p.m. Though I will say we are currently applying for additional schools. John Reed has about 111 students currently enrolled, and Thomas Page has about 110. And priority registration is given to our homeless, foster youth, English language learners, and those who qualify for free and reduced meals. However, any student at Thomas Page and John Reed, regardless of their ability or regardless of their qualification, is eligible for no-cost programming. So the big takeaway here is that our ACES programs are just a beautiful structure at John Reed and Thomas Page to provide safe and enriching programs after school at John Reed and Thomas Page. Really, we look at our ACES programs as how do they support our priorities for our district? How do they support our schools? We work with our principals, we work with our ACES staff, and really how do we build a program at each site that supports that? We look at how do we support academic achievement? How do we provide equity and access for our students? We provide a no-cost program. We develop programs that prioritize our students. We look at structuring activities that are developed around student choice and student voice. We want to make sure we're designing programs that students actually want to attend. We want to make sure that we are encouraging students to be there, to join in on the fun. And we really want to connect with families. We want to make sure that we're building programs that families want to participate with. They want their children there after school. A lot of times it is a means to an end. They need childcare for their families, but in the meantime, there's no reason why they can't receive academic support. They can't receive attendance. Now we're doing attendance recovery. There are music lessons or ballet folklorico. We can enhance their life after school. So that's our goal. Their day looks pretty awesome, actually. So depending on the day, depending on the school, we've got some incredible activities built in. So the kindergartners can go and have their fun. We kind of shelter them, but they have a lot of options in what they can do. It's a lot of choice. We build this semester, we started in January, we built in some attendance recovery options there. Attendance recovery built into the enrichment program, regardless of an ACES site versus an ELOP site. It has to be an option, so it can't be a required thing where we're sending children to this room to do attendance recovery. But we really, we had some amazing faculty this year really add that in. So kudos to them for the heavy lift. We feed them. That is not only a requirement, but really we are deeply committed to making sure that we've got students fed. And then we do it all over again at 4 o'clock. We give them some more choices and they can pick and choose what they're doing. And then we check them out with our new check-in and out system. So each 3 years, we look at our program goals and we make sure we're on target based on feedback that we're receiving, based on assessments of our we do an annual quality assessment. We see, are we on target? Where do we need to grow? And these are the goals that we've identified again: improving attendance and absenteeism, academic performance, increased student engagement, and providing high quality programming. And those are really our target goals. So because they ask the same questions every year, and we don't want to provide the same 12 answers, what changed? For us, it was really how we look at answering those and making sure that we aligned with our district priorities, that our district priorities evolve over the years, and how do we tighten those in? How do we increase focus on program quality? We can always improve. And if we're not looking that way, then we need to start. So we have amazing partners, and that's really what our goal is. how do we provide opportunities for our students to have a voice and make sure that they're having opportunities that they want to participate in? So that was a goal for us. And then making sure that we have some clear structures and equity practices, making sure that our attendance process or our registration process is clear, was important for us. And I think with our new process, our new registration system, we've started that. How do we work with our special education department to make sure we have supports in place for our students with special needs? Those are all goals of ours that we are working on, and those are expressed in the narratives and the way we answered our questions. So for that, I'm very grateful. It's very, very important for us to recognize the work that is done on behalf of our district, and our partnerships are incredible. So not only do we have these partnerships with our enrichment instructors, but our partnerships with the YMCA cannot be understated in any way. These amazing people are just some of the amazing people that support our ACES programs. So we collaborate, we talk all the time, and they are the reason our programs are successful. So kudos to them and the hard work they do.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions?
Any questions? Trustee Johnson? Trustee Brown?
I'm trying.
Trustee Martin?
Just had a question about attendance.
Yes.
Does that affect the funding, you know, like in the regular school day, it's ADA?
It has the potential to. If we hit below 75% of our anticipated goal, we have not, in my time here, even come close to hitting below 75%. Because we can braid the expanded learning dollars and the ACES dollars at both of these sites, we have more students than the ACES. We far exceed the ACES funding at both of those sites. So we're okay. Yeah.
What needs to happen to make our other sites eligible? Like, why is it only these two?
I don't know why it's only these two. That precedes me. And what do we have to do? I am trying. So we have another opportunity. It feels like they're very frequent, which I appreciate, but we do have another opportunity to apply for UELF, Richard Crane, and Tech Middle again. And in addition to that, we have an opportunity to apply for some additional funding for Thomas Page, because they granted us, when they granted us way back, they granted us at a lower level. And so what it depends on is our free and reduced percentage based on the entire state. It's whatever money's left over. And there are some very, very large counties in this state that have a lot of money or have a lot of schools that surpass us.
Yeah.
So we'll get it if we can.
Great. Well,
Okay.
thank you very much.
Thank
We
you.
really appreciate it. Alrighty. Next, we will do our student board members report. So first, we have Olivia Fountain with Rancho Cotati.
So I'm Olivia for Rancho Cotati for our school board report this month. So to start off, right before winter break, we had our, I think it's our second blood drive of the year. Our results were 17 procedures, where we collected 33 life-saving units with 10 first-timers, and that makes us 13 units over our final goal. And then we had our finals, which for our we have lots of academies, but we had 2 finals for our academies. For our law academy, they did a mock trial, which included people from the local fields around town. We also did a biomed academy final where they showed off their end of the year projects right here in the TAG lobby. For our first sport, we have our varsity boys and JV boys soccer. Right now, the varsity boys soccer has a record of 6-1-3, with their only loss being against Windsor, while JV has a record of 3-4-2. Both these teams play tomorrow at Montgomery. For our girls JV and varsity soccer, they had some very hard games. Varsity is sitting at 2nd place in the league right now, while JV is doing an amazing job with having a record of 8-1, and they only have 1 loss against Branson, so they're expected to go undefeated for their season. We have boys basketball. Their varsity is 14-5 right now. They had a very, very intense game on Friday against Ukiah, where they actually ended up winning, so now they're 4-0 in league right now. JV is 4-8, and their freshman team is 6-4, and they all have a game tomorrow against St. Vincent. Right now, the girls' basketball is actually playing. The varsity girls has an 11-7 record, and their JV has an 8-3. So right now they're playing Mario Carrillo, so hopefully they win that game. And then wrestling has done an amazing job all season. Both boys and girls have accumulated many medals and many wins, and their senior night is actually tomorrow against Annalee. And then we have competition cheer. They had a competition last Saturday where they did an amazing job and actually got 2nd place. And soon they have their finals in a couple weeks, so I'm excited to see what they can do. And then finally, last Tuesday, we had Clubs Rush. We have this once each semester where people can come and enjoy music while looking at all the clubs. We've added some more clubs. So they were able to sign up for each club. And we also had the blood drive was offered there, 10,000 degrees was offered there, and our applications for executive board was also there. So they're able to get a lot of things to go on to figure out what they want to do. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions? All right. Sophia for Tech High.
So, good evening. I'm Sophia Panieva, the Public Relations Officer from Tech High, and I'll be talking about the months of December and January at our school. So, ASB has recently introduced a new award for staff titled the Campus Champion. This award is given to staff who go above and beyond to make students feel seen and supported and for making our school an overall better and more welcoming place. Staff are chosen every month through nominations and voting within the ASB class. For the month of November, our wonderful office lady, Miss April, was the first champion, and for December, it was Mr. Weaver, one of our engineering teachers. Near the end of last semester, our students of the quarter for quarter 2 were announced. For the freshmen, it was Jimena Farias. For sophomores, it was Cadence Rotman. For juniors, Wendy Albor, and seniors, Erin Durango. These students display amazing character, motivation, and impact inside and out of the classroom, and we are so grateful to have an award to recognize them. Additionally, our athletes of the quarter were announced. 3 students were recognized. Rafael Anasco, a junior, who is currently on our boys basketball varsity team. Kalina Ignatieva, a senior who played on our varsity girls volleyball team and is now a captain on the varsity girls basketball team. And Aaron Durango, another senior, who finished up his season on the varsity cross-country team and is currently preparing for the track season. Congratulations to all of these star athletes. And of course, with the last semester coming to a close, we had our semester finals. These were the biggest exams we had so far, and they were quite stressful. Although the exams were difficult, students were grateful for the support of their teachers and other students around them. A lot of studying was done and a lot of effort was put into that week, but it was very rewarding to get finals week over with because we got to have our winter break. The break was very fun and very, very much needed. Students came back feeling refreshed, and I can tell that most were ready to get this semester started. To start the semester off right, the ASB fundraising committee is hosting a basketball tournament. Students signed up in groups of 3 to play through a bracket for a chance to win an Oliver's gift card. There was a good amount of sign-ups with about 6 to 8 teams playing. So far, it's been a lot of fun, and I believe that the finals will be happening sometime this week. And on January 14th, ASB hosted a club showcase in which clubs created a booth showing off what they have been up to and what they are planning to do. They set up their tables in the quad and talked to students all throughout lunch. This event was created to get more participation and members for the clubs, and there seemed to be a solid amount of new signups. Overall, it was a successful event and created an opportunity for more outreach from the clubs. Here are some of our upcoming events. So from February 2nd to February 6th, we will be having our Winter Formal Spirit Week. On Monday, we will have Jersey Day. On Tuesday, it'll be Performative Day. On Wednesday, it'll be Teacher-Student Swap Day. On Thursday, it will be Frat versus Sorority Day. And on Friday, it will be Favorite Music Genre / Artist Day, where students can wear their favorite band t-shirt or dress up as their favorite artists. We expect and hope that this Spirit Week will have a lot of participation. Then that Saturday, February 7th, we will have our winter formal titled The Snowball. ASB has been working so hard on getting this event together, and we hope to see a lot of students enjoying the dance. On January 28th, ASB will be doing our annual John Reed visit. We will be reading books with the kids, playing, and doing other fun educational activities. This event is always so much fun. Here are some photos from past years, and it's really exciting being able to go into classrooms and be role models for the younger students within our district. And here are some student voices. So like I mentioned previously, winter break was very much needed after the stressful week of finals. Heard a lot of students saying that. And then seniors are entering their final semester of high school, so struggling to keep that motivation up, but they're still showing up. And a good amount of excitement regarding winter formal, so the event is definitely something to keep the mood up from the post-break slump. And the Grease performance is coming up, and drama kids are working really, really hard to get the performance perfect. And, they're staying up late working on it. So, yeah, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Any questions?
I do. What's the teacher-student swap? What is that?
Oh, it's basically just teachers dress as students and students dress as like a teacher of their choice. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
When is the Grease performance going to be?
It's this weekend.
This weekend?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Here?
Get your tickets now.
Yeah.
On Saturday? What nights, what days? Friday, Saturday?
It's Friday,
Okay.
Saturday, Sunday.
Okay.
Great. Awesome. Trustee reports on activities. Trustee Johnson.
Okay, tomorrow I will be attending the SCO budget workshop. And the end of this month is DLAC, and that's what's on my calendar so far.
Great. Trustee Wright.
Pass.
Martin.
I was able to attend a special study session last week about the budget,
Mm-hmm.
and that's it.
Cool. All right, I pass. Superintendent Eteri.
Good evening, everyone. So we haven't been back that long, but I feel like I have a lot to say, so I'll try to keep it short. Our last regular meeting was December 16th, and that just seems like eons ago, but it really wasn't that. It's a month. We've been bargaining with SEIU and RIPSIA, and we're going into bargaining with CSCA next month. We had a budget advisory meeting, and we discussed where we are and the process and the timelines, similar to the budget special board meeting. We also had the 2x2x2 meeting where we meet with the cities of Cotati, Roanoke Park, and Sonoma State. The topic of conversation was the SRO and communication. We also had the AI task force, which is very exciting. We're coming up with some policy to be able to bring forward to all of you. And John Geck and Hillary Sowers have been leading that effort, so I thank both of them. We had the budget study session. Again, these are really difficult conversations, and as I've said over and over again, there are all bad ideas, but we do have to make some difficult decisions. We're working on our website. Thank you to Kirby in the booth. The website will be, we're hoping by the end of the week, we'll have it up, and it will have all our presentations, FAQs, all our reports, all our communications. We're also doing a video series of FAQs, which we'll have out so community can, budgets are difficult for people to understand, and we're gonna try to put it into digestible little bite-sized chunks. We are still accepting feedback from community and staff, and at the February meeting, we will be bringing forward a list of cuts for your consideration. So we did have a Williams complaint. It's our first ever. It was unfounded. So Williams has been around for about 20 years, so one time in 20 years is not bad, and it turned out to be unfounded. So that's it for my report. Thank you so much.
Great, thank you.
Rochelle, not Rochelle. I have a question. So, format for when we have sporting events like basketball games in the gym. When I know we had a little dispute and heated thing when competitiveness just recently. How do they? From the pictures, it looked like the fans are all on one side. They're not on two sides. When it's been a while since, yeah. So are both visiting and home all on one side?
Yes.
And
both players on one side?
Yeah, it doesn't matter what. So it'll be a mix all on one side. So it'll be Ukiah. In this case, it was Ukiah mixed with Rancho, or any person can sit anywhere on just one side. All the players sit on the other side.
So it's the public on one side and the players
Yes,
on the other
yeah.
side.
The far side stadium seats are not even pulled out.
It's been a while since I've been at a basketball game, but usually the players were on each side, and the accordingly school fans were on different sides. But it sounds like they're all on one side and then the players are on the other now?
Yeah, that's how it.
You know, is that
Is
a
it that way at all
thing?
the schools?
You know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
All indoor sports. Outdoor sports tend to be you sit on both sides, but for all indoor, like any basketball game, will most of the time be like that. Yeah.
Interesting.
All right.
Do you think if there were, I'll put you on the spot, but
No worries.
if they, one school's on one side, one school's on the other, if you had some, unfortunately misbehaved people get, upset about a call or thing, that you wouldn't be sitting right next to like a Dodger fan versus a Giants fan. Perfect example.
So
And we
good,
get
too.
along.
Better watch out.
Good.
Get the hose ready.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I look at our football games, and football games can be pretty heated as well, and we don't very often get in many fights. But I think because it was so close and our student section was very large this game, that it did end up because people were sitting next to each other and many words were said. I think that did affect it.
So is this an association? I mean, not the school, but who's the governing board for sports? Do they determine how this is set up at all schools, or do we do that?
I don't know.
I don't have the answer for that tonight, but I will get it and
Okay,
get
I'm
back
just
to you.
curious.
Yeah, no, I am too. It was a really good point, so thank you for bringing
I
it
get
up.
along with this Dodger fan, even
I
though
know.
they won the World Series. It's okay. You can't see me kicking him under the table.
It's a great question. I'll look into it.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks.
All right. And thank you for jumping in. All right. Next, we have receipt of official correspondence. So the Sonoma County Office of Education first interim report for fiscal year 25-26.
I think I mentioned receipt of this letter at our special board meeting, but it's our approval letter of our qualified budget for First Center. And there's some extra reporting we have to do by February 16th and things like that, but that was expected, and we'll have all of those things prepared in time.
Any questions?
I have a question. I've been a big fan of Credo and a supporter of them. But in this case, if Credo ends up with a negative, I mean, all schools are having problems. Are we financially responsible for Credo's debt if they can't pay their bills?
Ultimately, yes.
Ouch.
That's always been the case. We oversee them fiscally, so I am in contact with them every reporting period and ask for the information. It's been a little hard to get some information recently because I think they're going through some turnover and they vend out their business office, if you will. So their reporting is being done by Charter Impact, I believe the name is the name of the firm that's taking over their books. And there's been several people within that organization that has been doing their books for the last couple of years, and I think we have it dialed in. And I have since received all the information that I need to complete their first interim report, and according to their MYP and the discussions I've had with Andrea, the director over there, you know, they're working hard to right the ship, and everyone's engaged to do so. So, you know, their charter is up for renewal this year or next, I forget, coming up, and we're already starting that process with them. So, thank you. So we're starting that process of their renewal, their charter renewal, and one of the main things on my end would be, you know, a solid plan to get their books back in.
Well, you know, one of the things that we get scrutinized on by the county is that your spending limits, you know, your reserves, and you have to do things. And what can we require of them to make sure that they, you know, their spending is in line and they don't end up with the deficit that we're responsible for? It's kind of like a loan to us.
Well, you know, that'll only come to fruition if they go under. You know,
Right.
just like us, we're in fiscal distress, or you know, we're running deficits that we have a plan to rectify, and they
Right.
do too, and it's just a matter of them executing similar to us, and similar to the state, similar to anyone
Okay.
who has budget
All right, so
problems.
are you as comfortable as you can be right now about them?
Again, you know, I'm getting the information that I need to. I have concerns. The county of Sonoma County Office of Ed has concerns, and you know, we're saying those, we're
Right.
communicating those concerns, and you know,
So if
we're all doing our best.
Yeah,
you
no,
know.
I really are. But if things start to go south, if you can just keep us notified
Yeah.
accordingly.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely.
All right. You know, I trust you, but I mean, we're not managing their books and
Right.
and that, but
Well, so if we are fiscally responsible for them, what, like if they're buying a bunch of Lexuses and they can only afford Toyotas, like I don't want to be paying for a bunch of stuff that they can't afford. So like what right or what accountability do we have that we can go in and say I don't want them to go max out all their credit cards and then we're paying for it. Is it?
I don't know how to answer that.
Okay.
I mean, I don't see the detail of what they're doing, but I'm overseeing how I would review our books, for that matter. On a high level, I'm reviewing their books. On if you want some hard answers on some of those kinds of questions, I think we invite the director of Credo to come and answer some questions. You know, again, it's been difficult to get some information, but I am confident that the information that I'm receiving is what they're planning to do and how they're going to handle where the situation that they're in, similar to us.
Okay.
so, you know, maybe it is just to make us feel more comfortable that you do invite them. so we can feel reassured of, what their plan is. I mean, is everybody in agreement with that? Okay,
We'll work on that.
all right.
Would you remind me, John, how frequently do they update you? Monthly, quarterly?
They're on the same reporting cycles as we are, first interim, second interim budget adoption, unaudited actuals, so, I don't think anything has been required of them on top of all those reports. That's the same reporting cycle.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Any other questions about? All right. The next one is the Sonoma County Office of Education Differentiated Assistance Eligibility.
Thank you. So we qualify for differentiated assistance eligibility again this year. There are many districts in our county who do qualify for this. We've made some gains in some areas, and we went backwards in some others. Achievement in math and ELA need attention, particularly for our English language learners and our students with disabilities. We also need to work on chronic absenteeism. We made some growth last year, and we have put a lot of attention to it, but we need to look at what we're doing, because I don't know that we're doing the right things, because some of our groups have increased. Our suspension rates have decreased with most groups, and our college readiness has increased with most groups, except for students with disabilities. So we really have to target our EL population and students with disability in a number of our achievement and attendance areas. And the way we work with SCO is we attend meetings at SCO, and they offer us support in the way of professional development or coaching. So for example, Tech Middle and John Reed are working on their English language learner populations and supporting. We have SCO support to support those populations. I met with the county last week, and we're looking at some support with chronic absenteeism and what that might look like. So those are the ways in which SCOs offer support for differentiated assistance.
Great. Any questions?
Yeah, they say that there's going to be meetings January 28th and March 11th. What happens at those meetings?
So that's when a team of us, which we bring a strong team. We have our education services, student services, principals, teachers, assistant soup. I try to attend as many as possible, and that's when we have time to work on some of the strategies that we want to try. And then it's an opportunity for us to ask SCO for support. Hey, we want to give this a try. We think that this might be a way of improving.
Mm-hmm.
And like the area that we want to add at this point is absenteeism. It's affecting us in so many ways, negatively affecting us. So, and the students. And that's an area that we want to pay close attention to. So we'll be asking for additional support in that area. We can't make growth if we can't get students here. So that's definitely high on the priority list.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you. All right. Next we have the consent agenda. Can I get a motion to approve items 9A through V?
All motion?
Can I get a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 4-0 with one absent. All right. Next up, we have for educational services a mid-year LCAP update with the dashboard.
Excuse me. So we have, every year we have to provide you with a mid-year on the LCAP. And so we have Amelia Circo and Lystra Hobby coming to the podium. And we also want to explain our dashboard results. We will have a study session on our scores later on in the school year. But this is an opportunity to get an overview. And then we can go more in depth into this work in our study session. Thank you both for being here.
My apologies, I'm not used to it being a PDF. So, good evening, board members. My name is Leicester Hobby. I'm with the Educational Services Department. I'm going to be doing the first half of our presentation, which focuses on our California dashboard data. As a reminder, we talked about this last year, and it is a bit lengthy, has a lot of numbers, a lot of colors. So if you have any questions at all during the presentation, please feel free to interrupt and ask your questions. You do not need to wait till the end. Okay. All right, as a reminder, our LCAP is connected partially to our dashboard results through goals 1, 2, 3, and 4. Our goal 1 of our LCAP is CRPOSD will enhance instructional outcomes for students and close achievement gaps across specific student demographic groups so that all students receive a high quality, well-rounded, just, and accommodating education that addresses their individual needs. Our second goal is CRPSD will create a safe and welcoming learning atmosphere that provides a conducive environment that supports social-emotional learning for all student scholars and staff. Goal 3 is CRPSD will engage parents, families, and community partners through education, communication, and collaboration to promote student success. Our final goal is CRPSD will improve academic outcomes for multilingual learners. How the dashboard is kind of structured is it gives us this kind of colored wheel going from red to blue. Blue is the highest achievement, red is the lowest. We usually fall somewhere in the middle. The dashboard is kind of like a report card for our schools and districts. It communicates how schools and districts are doing, establishes common standards and expectations for all schools and districts across the state of California. It also identifies student groups, schools, and districts that may need extra support. That's kind of that differentiated assistance that Dr. Ituri was just talking about. It also focuses attention on 8 state priorities. It also informs our annual budget and strategic planning processes. This is going to be one of the new additions to how I'm doing my presentation this year, is that we are given this colored graph that shows on a vertical axis of the level that they consider your district to be at, and on a horizontal, how much you have decreased, maintained, or increased from the prior year. They use both of those metrics to determine kind of that color on the wheel that we were just talking about. The 6 state measures that our dashboard looks at are academic performance in both ELA and mathematics, English learner progress, which is tied to the LPAC test, college and career indicator, which is for our high schools only, chronic absenteeism, graduation rate, and suspension rate. We also have 5 local indicators of basic conditions, implementation of academic standards, school climate surveys, parent involvement and family engagement, and access to courses. Those are judged on a local level, which means we give ourselves our own score. They do involve a rubric that we follow, but we are ultimately the ones reporting that data. There are some new things on the dashboard for the 2025 school year. As a reminder, this looks at our data from last year, so last year's LPAC scores, last year's graduation date, because none of that is available for this year yet. We do have a student level growth tile this year, which is informational only. It could possibly become a state indicator for 2026, which means it would feed into differentiated assistance eligibility, but it does not feed into that currently. We also have science indicator, which is also informational only, but we do get a color on it this year. Last year was just gray and we just got numbers. This year we actually get a color identified with our performance. The college and career indicator has been adjusted to include AP course grades with a C- or better, in addition to passing AP tests. So this gives our students a little bit more wiggle room to fit into that college and career indicator. The state seal of civic engagement is on its way to becoming part of that, but it's not quite there. I know that our high schools are focusing on narrowing down CRPOSD's criteria for state seal engagement and actually giving some language to it so we can get more students with that seal. And we're hoping that in the future this will help build our college and career indicator as well. They've also modified DA eligibility for our LTEL, which is long-term English learner group, so that it no longer looks at our ELA and math indicators to qualify for differentiated assistance. It is using our English learner progress to qualify and the other factors as well. All right, starting us off are our 5 local indicators. Like I said, those are basic conditions, implementation of academic standards, school climate surveys, parent involvement and family engagement, and access to courses. We did use the scale provided by the CDE to rate ourselves, and we were considered standard met across the board. This is the same that we were last year, so there has been no change on that. First up, we've got our English Language Arts, which is tied to the CASP ELA test. We scored in the color of what they consider orange. This is the same color we were last year, and we are 26.1 points below standard, which means when you get that big, long scaled score with your students' results, it's 26 points below what they consider to be at grade level. While that might be startling, it is an increase of 1.8 points from the prior year. So that means we are still moving in the right direction. Kind of like we talked about for that grid, this orange spot right here is where we fell. Even though we were increasing, they considered a status of maintained because it was less than 3 points up. So we go into this column, and then we are considered in the low category, so we still maintain in orange. To kind of bop up a color, we would need to increase by at least 3 points or jump our scores up, which is the more difficult one. For mathematics, we've actually moved up a color this year. We have gone from orange up to yellow. We increased by 4.5 points from last year. That means all of our students scoring together have actually moved up even more than we normally expected. Talking about that grid again, we moved over to yellow because we increased by more than 5 points, or more than 3 points, excuse me. Here are our kind of overall proficiency scores for math and ELA. We can see for ELA that we had 41.31% students meet or exceed the standard on the CASP ELA test. In California, only about 48.8 students passed this test, and in Sonoma County, about 45.24. So we are not that far off of our county or state. For math, we've got about 27.91% of students meeting standard. California has 37.3, Sonoma County 33.36. So it's a similar story kind of across our state. Up next is our English Learning Progress Indicator. Again, this is tied to the LPAC test, but it's not directly related to their scores. It is looking to see if they have moved up on their LPAC test. So it's on a scale of 4. So if they scored a low 2 last year, but a high 2 this year, they count that as progress. We scored orange this year. Last year we scored in yellow. We had 40.9% of our students progressing towards proficiency. Unfortunately, this was a decrease of 7.6 from the prior year. Before we panic and make faces about it, because I can kind of see that growing, let me kind of explain a little bit of why. Because it's not, while a decrease is never good, it is not for a shocking or alarming reason. Kind of, you've seen me up here multiple times talking about our EL reclassification. We have had astronomical numbers of students reclassified, so this means that band of students in this graph, that little blue band that is like 5.1%, 4.2, those are students who scored a 4, which is the maximum score you can get on the LPAC in 1 year, then took it again the next year and also scored a 4. We don't really want them doing that because if they score a 4, we want to be reclassifying them. They should not be having to retake that test. We have adjusted our policies to the point where that band dropped from 5.6 to 1.2. So that means our students who were scoring a 4, we did our due diligence and we reclassified them. So they were not taking this test again. That drop accounts for a good chunk of that decrease in scores because what are we doing with our best students? We're reclassifying them. They don't take this test anymore. So while it's startling, it's not really as bad as it seems.
Does the state see it that way too?
Would you like to guess based on the color? The state doesn't get the full story of what our district is actually doing though. We'll get the props for reclassifying our students, but then we don't get the props for it on the back end of the test. Speaking of the actual test, sorry. Exactly. We shouldn't be getting that huge decrease because that number shouldn't be drastically dropping. It dropped because we did our job and made sure our best students were reclassified for all their effort. But we shouldn't see that drop again. It was mostly this declined that dropped us down. It wasn't necessarily our scores. Because here's our actual performance on the LPAC. We have 14.47% of students who pass. Sorry, just making sure he's okay. Which is not only beats our county, which have 14.06% of students passing, it's a little over 1% less than our state, which only has 15.53% of students passing. So when it comes to actually passing this test, we're really not that far off the mark. It was just that big jump down because we're doing such a good job of reclassifying our students that knocked us down a color. Chronic absenteeism, I know Dr. Terry touched on this a little bit. We decreased by 0.8, which can be a little confusing. We want our chronic absenteeism to go down. That is a number we want to see drop, so that dropping by 0.8 is good. I know it was not as much as we had hoped for, but it's still going in the right direction. We're not increasing, so as long as we can keep that slow chug down, it can help us out. I know we've been doing a bunch of efforts on trying to get students to come to school a bit more. We've had some amazing attendance initiatives. We've got Elena over there doing our attendance recovery. We're working on it. And there we are, falling in that nice little yellow square. We did decline, not quite enough to bump us up into green. We would have to have a chronic absenteeism level of 5.1 to 10%, which would be quite a bit of a drop, so it may be a little bit yet before we get there. Our graduation rate, we actually jumped up a color in this one as well. We went from yellow to green. We increased our graduation rate by 1.1% from our prior year, and we had 89.2% of students graduated. Both of our standard high schools of Tech High and Rancho have higher graduation rates than 8.9 or 89.2. They haven't much more along standard. We're falling right there. We had just over 1.1% increase, so we bopped our way up into green. Our suspension rate, this is another number that we want to see go down, and it did decrease by 1.1%, which is a fairly large jump since we only have 3.8% of students being suspended. That's where we fall on that colored grid. This next one is a college and career indicator. This one is more of an informational slide to see what actually gets a student to qualify as being considered college or career ready. By the state standards is one of these 8 things. Some of them are a combination of things such as completing a CTE pathway and passing CASP, ELA, or math, or meeting UC, CSU standards, plus passing ELA and math, getting college credit courses, AP, IB exams. There's a bunch of different ways that students can qualify to meet that college and career indicator set by the state. We're in yellow this past year, as continued from our prior year. We did increase by 1.1% of students who are considered college and career ready, but it's still considered a status of maintained, so we stay in our little yellow box. It's our second to last one, science. Again, this one is not part of our DA eligibility, but it's still an informational one on the dashboard, so I like to include it. We were in the yellow this year. We didn't have a color last year, but we did increase by 0.7 points. So even in science, we are still working our way up. That's where we land on that colored grid. This is where we land overall. We have 26.13% students passing the CAS science test. That's only taken in 5th, 8th, and high school 11th or 12th grade. In California, only about 32.6% students pass. In Sonoma County, only about 29.7%. This is our other new informational tile. This one is a little bit convoluted. It's student growth. So they're taking those CASP, ELA math scores, they are comparing them to a prior year, grouping students, and getting a projected score based on a student's prior score. In CRPOSD, we score at the moderate level, so consider that kind of the orange color. They changed up the color scale on us, I'm not really sure why. But in future years, we're going to see this come out more. This one is the one that they are considering adding as DA eligibility. There's nothing for certain on that yet, but it is in their thought process. It's a slightly different measure than just a student's straight up score because it takes into account where that group of students are actually performing.
I have a quick question about the test. Are English language learners, do they take it in their, like, the language they feel most comfortable in, or is everyone taking this in English?
The ELA test everyone takes in English. If you are a newcomer, which means you've been in the US less than 1 year, you are exempt from the ELA test.
Okay.
The math test, they have what is called an accommodation called dual stack, where the entire test can be translated into Spanish. That's the only language that can be translated into. We do have other glossaries or things that can be available to students as supports.
Okay.
But of course, it's not the same as taking it in your home language.
Okay, thanks. I can barely read it, but does that say 62 point something students improve their score from prior year?
Yep.
So that's overall, that's all grade levels?
Yeah.
Okay.
The only grade level they don't do is third because they don't have a prior year score to look at.
So it's 4th through 8th and then 11th.
Yes.
Thank you.
This is kind of going back to what we were talking about before, that differentiated assistance. There are 4 methods that a district can qualify. The only method that we qualify under is our state indicators only. We don't qualify for our local indicators, we don't qualify for a combination of them, and we do not qualify for our CalPAD submission data. So it's only under method 1. This is where we have qualified for this year. We have 4 demographic groups that qualified. Our English learners, we qualified for their ELA and math achievement and chronic absenteeism. Our homeless population, we qualified also for ELA and math achievement and chronic absenteeism. Our long-term English learners, we qualified for their English learner progress, chronic absenteeism, and college and career readiness. And students with disabilities, we qualified for ELA and math achievement, chronic absenteeism, and the college and career indicator. As we were already talking about, kind of some of the resources we get for our differentiated assistance are our meetings up at SCO, where we can develop plans to kind of combat these issues and target support for these groups. We do have people from our county office working with both Technology Middle and John Reed with their English learner population. We've been doing test chats with these students to try and give them the motivation to pass the LPAC for those who have been in that long-term English learner group. We've also been helping develop more of our English language development curriculum at the middle school level. And we've been kind of closely tracking our subgroup data to look for improvement and to see if we need to change what we're doing. I'm now going to turn it over to my partner, and she's going to tell you all about our LCAP.
Good evening, everybody. President Wing, trustees, Superintendent Dr. Aturi, cabinet members, student board members, members of the community. For the record, my name is Amelia Sarko, and I work in the Educational Services Department as a district-wide administrator. Goal 1 of our LCAP focuses on student achievement, to put it in basic terms. Over the past year, the district has made significant progress in the development of guaranteed standards, including instructional ladders that define student development and proficiency. Our site-based professional development model this year has allowed schools to implement targeted, differentiated supports while maintaining the site leadership autonomy. So I wanted to point out some celebrations and next steps so far this year with our LCAP. When comparing our data from 2022 to 2025, we see significant reductions in our outcome trends, including an increase, though, in our English learner reclassification rate from 8.5% in 2022 to 15.59%, as Lystra pointed out, and is what we're reporting here as well currently. And we've had a reduction in our chronic absenteeism from 22.6% in 2022 to 19.1%. I do want to note that these are not percentages that we want to highlight and celebrate necessarily to a high extent, but the fact that we're reducing them after COVID-19 is a major step in our work that we're doing with our students. These outcomes reflect targeted, improved access to instruction, targeted supports, and also increased student engagement. Looking ahead, the district is going to continue to strengthen instructional systems through common formative assessments, our standards-based report card work that we're doing at the elementary and the middle school level, expanded CTE pathways, and our attendance recovery opportunities that we're providing. This work will also be supported through our ongoing professional learning communities implementation at all school sites, TK through 12. And then, as you can see under Goal 1 in our student achievement, what we have budgeted, and for our mid-year expenditures where we currently are. For Goal 2, to put it in layman terms, this is what we call our social emotional learning goal. This year, all school sites are participating in PBIS and are supported by an assigned coach to ensure consistent implementation. Restorative circles have been implemented at every site to strengthen relationships and support positive behavior. And student support assistants, also known as our SSAs, have been launched at all TK through 8 grade schools to provide additional on-site student support. As a result of these continued efforts, the district continues to see reductions in both overall suspension rates, as Lice reported, and suspension disproportionality, indicating progress toward more equitable and supportive disciplinary practices. Looking ahead, we will continue implementing social emotional learning curriculum across all TK through 8 sites, and expand our Tier 2 PBIS supports to better meet the needs of students requiring additional behavior and social emotional interventions. And then as you can see under Goal 2, what we have budgeted, and then currently mid-year expenditures where we currently stand. Goal 3, this is what you would call our educational partner community goal. The district has made strong progress in strengthening our family engagement and communication. Currently, 99.3% of our families are contactable through Parent Square, ensuring timely and consistent communication. I'm sure each and every one of you are also on those communications like all of us. All school sites maintain active English Learner Advisory Committees, also known as ELAC, that meet regularly, supporting our family voice and decision-making and also getting their input. Family inclusion continues to also be a priority, with 87% of our families reporting that they were included in the IEP process, as well as 95% of our parents indicating that they were included through the Expanded Learning Opportunity Program's survey feedback process. Looking ahead, we are going to continue to analyze the Youth Truth Survey that's going to be coming up shortly. It closes on January 30th to further inform family engagement efforts. We will come back to you with the results of those surveys later in the spring. We're also going to continue to celebrate our student success through our district-wide reclassification ceremony that's also offered in the spring of 2026, and I'm sure that all of you have had the opportunity to be able to participate in previous years as well. Our spending in Goal 3, budgeted, what you're seeing, and then our actuals are currently where we stand with what we spent in Goal 3. Our Goal 4, this is what's called our multilingual learner goal. The district has seen strong growth in outcomes for MLLs, or multilingual learners. As I shared earlier, the reclassification rate has increased from 8.5% to 15.59%. And 43 students earned the seal of biliteracy during the 24-25 school year. And additionally, 100% of multilingual learners who took an AP exam earned a score of 3 or higher in the 24-25 school year as well. At the middle school level, our ELD, English Language Development, investigative learning has been implemented through robotics courses at all 3 sites, providing engaging, standards-aligned opportunities for multilingual learners. Monthly trainings for English learner assistants continue to strengthen our instructional support district-wide as well. Looking ahead, the multilingual learner roadmap will continue to be refined to guide district-wide efforts, and we will continue to identify and support students on their pathway to earn the seal of biliteracy. And then what we had budgeted for our multilingual learner goal, Goal 4, and then mid-year expenditures where we currently stand. I want to thank you for your time and attention tonight, and I'd be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Great, thank you.
Thank you,
Trustee
yes.
Johnson?
Yes, I do have a question. So on the budgets, this is mid-year and all, maybe 3 out of 4 of them are past the halfway. Do you look at going over budget this year with a lot of these, 3 out of these 4 programs?
I am going to respectfully defer to my colleague.
Good answer, Amelia.
Well, we have a $5 million deficit, so, I mean, I say that in jest, but yes and no. I mean.
Can we cap it at where the budget was?
I mean, the programs in place are the programs in place.
Right, yeah.
So, we can't do anything about we're not gonna do anything about most of those things. And in a lot of the cases, depending on what the cost of each action item is, I may have put a year number in there or not. The process of doing these kind of reporting things is complicated, and but I think we're gonna do what we're doing, and we're gonna spend what we're gonna spend, and because we're deficit spending, I think that tells you where we are budget wise.
Can I ask you a question? What I think I heard you say is that you may have encumbered the funds for the entire year in some of those numbers. Is that what I
Yeah.
heard? Yeah.
Yeah.
To add on to the budget question, it's just, I had a similar thing. It's hard to say if you're over 50%, are the costs front-loaded, where you've paid for a program there. So, I mean, the budget numbers, I was gonna say, really don't mean anything to me because there's so many elements to it that I don't think you can just look at that and go, you're under or over.
Right.
So, as long as we, meet the budget, which you're probably planned on, we're good.
Yeah, the costs, the budget is 3 years, we made up the budgets 3 years ago. So, or we're in the third year, right?
Mhm.
This LCAP.
We'll be doing a full review here in the spring.
So things change, staffing changes, 85% of this budget as well as people. So, in prior years, you might have had a more expensive teacher or staff member that was part of that action item. So, I mean, there are all kinds of reasons why we're where we're at. But, yeah, I think we'll be close, or we have, we have to spend a certain amount of money that the LCAP puts out there regarding supplemental and concentration, and we have to show that we've spent that. So
We'll be sitting down in the springtime and reviewing all of our actions, reviewing, all of our programs, and because we will need to do a complete refinement of the LCAP for the outgoing 3-year cycle. So we'll have to make a lot of adjustments in what we currently have with the budget cuts that are coming.
I had a comment and 2 questions. Thank you for doing this, and thank you for presenting it in a way that makes sense to me. And I do like the forward movement that we're making. And my goal is for each student to get the best education possible. And the competitive side of me wants to do better than that California state average by a large margin.
I understand.
Yes, keep up the good work. Thank you. My question from goal 3, 87% of families felt like they were included in the IEP process. What about the other percent? I don't know how to take this. The other percent, do they not respond? Do they feel like they were left out, or what's the story behind that?
I'm gonna defer again. Rachel and I actually talked about this last year when she was still the director of special education. We needed some more indicators, and we needed some relevant information for our parents. And so we talked about the different groups that we served. And one of the underserved groups is our students with disabilities, is our students with exceptional needs. And that's what we call it out in our LCAP. We call it a SWEN. And so Rachel and I talked about ways that we could include feedback from our parents and where could we get it from. And so that's where we talked about receiving it from, was through that process. And there's a question at the end of an IEP meeting about being included, and there's a checkbox. And so we talked about that and how could we collect that information throughout a year so it's relevant and it's pure and it's real. And so we came up with that, and then I'll defer to her for that extra 13%.
I can't speak to exactly why, but I can say that I was surprised by the 87% number. It does seem a little lower than what I recall it's been in the past. I could get that exact number, or special ed could pull it, of what it was in previous times that we've reported that. If I had to make a guess, my imagining is that sometimes that gets left blank. So it's very, because we have looked in the past, because sometimes people will purposefully decline to state, or sometimes it just gets left blank. So you have 3 options. You have, yes, I was actively involved in my student's IEP. No, I was not actively involved in my student's IEP. I declined to state. Or if it gets left blank.
And this is a new indicator for us this year. This is brand new. It's the first time we've ever asked this, so it may also be a matter of us collecting it and reporting it out, like she said, accurately, and so making sure that we're collecting that information. So
Because
this is the first time we've had it.
previously, and it was usually in the 90s.
And I think the word "I was included" can be, that's very subjective, because
Mhm.
included could mean, well, they didn't offer me the services that I wanted, or I wasn't included in the process was just told to me. Like, well, because we have legal things to do, so I think too, that's a little bit, like, you might have to define, included to me might look different than included to you.
I could see that. My last question about students and their seal of biliteracy, 43% got that seal. With all of our graduates, I guess I thought that number would be higher. Is there no interest in having that seal or studying a second language?
I'm not, and I know, Lystra, I know we've talked about this, the seal of biliteracy. Do you know the process in terms of which they receive it?
Hi, I'm back. So in regards to the seal of biliteracy, honestly, it's something that we've had to work on for more of a clerical stance on identifying students. Most of our students meet the majority of the criteria, but they're just missing like 1 or 2 pieces. Because it's not just a single, you pass this one test, you qualify. Like everything from the state, there's multiple criteria applied to it. So we are working on creating reports to help us easily identify students, to find the ones that are just missing 1 point, talking to those students personally and pointing out like, hey, if you do this one thing, you get this extra seal on your diploma.
Got
So
it.
it's a work in progress.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
Anything else?
Any other questions? Thank you very much.
Have a
We
good night.
Appreciate it. Thanks. Still me. All right, we have no personnel services, no business and operations. So, John, fiscal update and planning.
Enclosed in the item today for fiscal update and planning is your enrollment report as usual. I did not include a month update of the budget because I did just report on the budget last time. I have some takeaways from the 26-27 budget, governor's budget proposal workshop that Molly and I attended today. I wrote down some things. I didn't do a formal presentation because I just got back 3 o'clock today. Anyway, but risks to the state budget. You want me to do this, or I can do it more formally? Okay. Risks to the state budget. A couple things that stood out to me is that there's a projected deficit of $22 billion in 27-28. And shortfalls totaling $45 billion in 28-29 and 29-30. You know, the state budget, from the revenue standpoint, is heavily overly reliant on capital gains tax. You know, the big 3, but capital gains is what's driving a lot of the revenue for this year, and that is overly reliant on AI companies' performance. There's a slide on the S&P 500 and how much of it is directly being affected by like 5 companies, and you can probably imagine who they are. But they're all AI related. So revenue volatility again it drives budget strategy. So ongoing uncertainty around state revenues, which is mostly around capital gains taxes, has led the governor to again use the Proposition 98 settle-up mechanism, which he did last year, fully funding last year's $1.9 billion settle-up, while creating a much larger $5.6 billion settle-up for 25-26. I think we've heard some of these big numbers. So ultimately, potentially, he's shortfalling the Proposition 98, which is a constitutional law in the state of California, by $5.6 billion. And just so you know, if the 25-26 minimum guarantee is fully appropriated or given to districts, allocated to TK-12 agencies on an equal per ADA basis, districts would receive approximately 909 ADA or $5.4 million. So that's that. LCFF funding is maintained with a lower COLA. I know I've mentioned this several times. The governor's budget fully funds the LCFF for 26-27, which is inclusive of a 2.4 statutory COLA, which is lower than the previously projected 3.02%. And I say this all the time, but a 1% COLA increase or decrease or 1% change in COLA is about 800,000. So this is about 0.6 difference, and that's about close to $500,000 of a revenue change for next year based on the COLA. There's a lot of talk about more one-time discretionary funding, 2.8 billion in one-time Proposition 98 funds for discretionary block grant, similar to what we received this year, although it's almost double the amount, so $512 per ADA. Could be $3 million of that bucket of one-time money. And the Learning Recovery Emergency Block Grant was cut a couple years ago, and they've they made a payment to repay back what they cut this year, and they're going to bring the total funding for that program up to what it was supposed to be. So we should see another maybe $500,000 in one-time funding there. So just as expected, there was the way that the state of California, satisfies the Proposition 98, even though they're, maybe not funding it $5.6 billion as required. They put some money towards the formula, which is the COLA, and then to satisfy Prop 98 and the obligations, they give us one-time money so that they can say they're giving us more money. It's one-time money. It's money's money. Maybe we would prefer not to use that money for things that eat, but that's where we're at, and that's my takeaways from today.
John, during COVID, the one-time monies had a time, like a use it or lose it kind of thing. Does this?
They did not. I didn't read that part, but
this
new round,
it's just
no,
yours and do with it what
not
you want
yet.
whenever you want.
It hasn't been established for the $3 million pot that. Yeah, they did not. They don't know how it's going to be dispersed yet or any of the details. It's just been what's been proposed.
And is there a way, because I know we have to build our reserve back up to 3%. Can you use, because I paid this out of it,
restricted
I can
dollars.
put this back in?
We can use it to help in some ways. We'd have to determine that. I mean, I think, if Jamal was here, he would probably prefer not to decimate his department like we have planned.
Right.
And I think we had potentially, if these things come to fruition, we'd have enough to offset some of the cuts of the one-time staffing that we want to bring back or things.
We won't know for sure till the end of June.
Right.
Beginning of July.
May Revise will have more information. Until the budget is adopted, which is in June.
Right.
We won't know everything.
All right. Thank you. Anyone else?
John, I just want to clarify and just be sure that I'm understanding this correctly. So the one-time money is not going to offset our structural deficit.
Absolutely.
This is just, it's another, here's a little bit of money. You can maybe hire, you can do some things for a year, but you can't count on this. So we still have to do what we have to do in order to right the ship and fix our deficit spending.
None of the things I read to you just now are going to help with our budget issue.
The only thing that would help is if that COLA had increased or we get our attendance back.
Yeah.
So, right, because those are ongoing things.
Correct.
Okay, I just wanted to be sure I understood. Thank you.
Great, all right. Next up, we have approval of school safety plan. Is everyone doing good?
Can we go back to the attendance report?
Yeah, please.
Can we, so what caused the huge increase in I guess, independent study and the drop at the or at the 9 through 12? We've got 19, we got 30 people disappearing in 9th, 10th, and 11th, and 12th. And then 27 increase in independent study. Is that a shift of those students? Hopefully, we're not. I'm confused about that.
Well, won't this be the one that also has graduates on, December early graduates?
Well, I don't know. But why would you pick up 27 in independent study? Where's that coming from? And then, or is this, well, the graduates wouldn't be 9th, 10th, and 11th.
No, it'd just
Would
be
only
12.
be 12th.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of curious as
Let me see
to.
what the backup.
Pardon me?
Let me look at the.
Yeah, if you can
entry
get back to
as
us on
report,
that, just
yeah.
let us know. And then the other comment about enrollment, I always look at this chart from years of experience, and I look at, we're gonna graduate, or 474, 484, well, 474 seniors are gonna disappear, go on to greater things. But on the other end, you know, TK kind of turns into kindergartners. We're below that number. So you're dropping off in students. So if you look at 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th.
I don't think a TK versus seniors is I think it's TK and kindergartners both together would replace the senior class, because not all TKers.
But do all
not all-
TKs move into kinder, or do some TKs move into first?
I
All
think
TKs move into kinder, but not all kinders took TK.
correct.
So you don't have the class of 20 whatever is not going to be 311 because not all kids can go to TK or
Okay.
want to go to TK.
Okay.
So-
But
I mean,
we have,
technically
okay,
kinder's
so
not-
if you look at, we have 390 kinder. So will we have, next year, will we have close to that number in first?
Good.
Okay, so that's
Technically, you might have more
390,
'cause
but
kinder's
if
not
we
there.
graduate 474, that's 70 kids, 70 to 80 kids less students. So you have to look at this as kind of a rolling average. And, you know, populations are gonna go up and down, but ideally, so then we're gonna drop off 80 students next year. And hopefully, you know, so that's
Wasn't
just.
that a problem that like a lot of the schools have is you have a bubble class and it just makes the whole.
Yeah, man,
time
but
it
you
goes
have to,
through,
you have to
but-
plan accordingly
Yeah.
with a bubble, and budget accordingly with that, so. Anyway, so, that's an indicator I look at.
And
you
again,
know.
I think I've said, I think you've asked similar questions about this in the past. And,
Right.
you know, our ninth grade class doesn't necessarily follow what our 8th grade, because we take students from other districts to,
Right.
in high school. Or there are definitely, I mean, I have a whole history about this, but in regards to your analysis of this, in this particular situation, it may not follow all the way up through the grades, because we get more kids from other districts in high school.
In prior years, before we had Tech High, was a significant problem with 8th grade students going to private school, or going to a art study school, or going to a school that was dominant in band. So we had problems in the past out of the 8th grade class, and losing students to other, you know, as you look now in the paper and schools and stuff, they're all advertising to get students, you know, come to our district or whatever, so.
I'm gonna have to get back to you on the independent study question.
Okay.
I think you're probably right in that there are kids moving from all those grades to
Right.
two independent study, but I'll
Okay.
have to.
All right, thank you. Okay, super.
Right? Are you guys doing okay, or we're about to talk about safety plans. Do you want a break, or do you? Okay, we're gonna take a 5-minute break. We'll be back in 5 minutes. will reconvene at 8:05. Next up is approval of school safety plans.
All right, so we bring our school safety plans to the board for their approval every year. We have to meet this approval by March 1st. We have Kristen Lassell is here, I believe, to share a little bit of information on our safety plans. Is Kristen here? Great.
She's coming.
Thank you.
So I'm here because Jamal is out sick. All of our schools have essentially the same exact safety plan. We've been working on making them very uniform all the way across the district. This is the public-facing safety plans. So the schools do have their own safety plans that are housed in their offices. It has updated board policies. We went through to make sure that all of the board policy that was mentioned has been updated. And everything has been streamlined for all of our schools. Are there any questions on any of the safety plans as you've gone through them?
I just have one. A little bit
Yeah.
on, can I add to what you're saying?
Of
So one of the
course.
reasons that we have public-facing documents and documents that are housed at the school site is we don't want everyone to know what all our plans are. We want to keep those things close and for the people on the school site. But we do have public-facing documents so people know that we're following policies and that we are updating them and ensuring that we're following the right practices. But those very detailed plans are not visible to the public. So I just wanted to make sure that was clear. Thank you.
Okay, so, thank you for that's a big report. Anything really come out of the great shakeout, that we had? Was there any ahas that we added to our plans this year that we can share to the public?
I'm going to defer that to Dr. Ituri.
Yes, we learned a lot. We needed to be one of the things that came out was our communication systems needed improving. And we knew that that would be one of the things. At the school site, they were spot on. The schools knew exactly what to do. They had the kids in the right places. They evacuated swiftly and quickly. They had a drill where they searched for students. Where the communication fell apart was between the school sites and the district. And part of that was the functionality of the radio system. We were testing it, right? It was, as Rob, our IT director says, it was a stress test to see if it worked. And we realized that we needed to make some changes. So we've made changes since then that we're then going to test again.
All right. Can I get a motion to approve the school safety plans? Oh, yeah. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
I have just some general questions. I mean, I appreciate the plans and that, and some of the indicators of safety are is kind of, what our society is doing. And we have it. What's the app that's called where you can notify and stop it?
Stop it.
Yeah. So it's just, I guess just how's the stop it going? How's, a reading of the barometer of how society and the community is going? We've talked a lot about, our student, let's say SRO, but is that, yeah, SRO. Having multiple SROs, we're losing our SRO for a few months while the police department, shifts staffing. So who can give us well, it's kind of a hard question. Who can give us a reading of the barometer as to where we're going and what society is doing and the stresses and whether it's people losing their jobs or the economy or whatever that rolls back to the school district and things?
Yeah, I think it's a combination of all those things. I'll be presenting probably when we get through the budget reductions. I'll be presenting information on our safety data. We've been collecting data, so I have some baseline data on workplace violence, on our majors and minors. We'll get a baseline this year, and then we'll be able to look at it next year and see if we've made some improvement. I'll also be sharing that with all of you during my evaluation on where things are and what kinds of things we're seeing, but I can't do that it'll be in a closed session, so
Okay.
we'll see what kinds of things we're facing. But yes, it's all those things. People are very stressed financially, emotionally, socially. So those things, our schools are a mirror of what's happening in our society and in our communities. And we want to continue to create healthy, welcoming spaces. And sometimes it's hard to do, particularly with all the rhetoric that's happening.
My major concern is how do we be able to read that, to view it, and to react to that, to protect our students and staff. So, I mean, this stuff is great, and it puts the framework down, but we're kind of at the mercy of the outside environment and how it does that. And John talks about 5 companies, supporting the profitability of the state budget and AI, and what happens if that crumbles, and projected deficits going forward. I see it in my construction business dropping off significantly, which is good for me because I need a break. It's not detrimental type of thing, but Michelle, the wine industry and other things are cyclical type of thing, and housing and stuff. So I'm just concerned about the outside influences and how they roll back into the schools. And I don't know if fences at all the schools or 5 SROs, can handle that type of thing. So those are the questions that I have going forward. So
I think you were asking, like, how do we find out the pulse? And the SRO has been frozen for a couple months. Our hope and my wish is that Officer Debbie does come back sooner rather than later. But to me, she is a really big key to that, because she knows what happens. We know what happens between 8 and 3. She knows what happens between 3 and 8.
Right.
So she knows which students may have had a really rough night. She knows where the police were last night. She knows what kind of things they're, if a student comes to school completely smiling and happy, but last night it was a really, really bad night at home. We aren't privy to that as a school district, and she is. So to me, that is it's not losing the SRO because she's going to jump in the middle of a fight or do something. We can definitely call public safety and they'll be here in seconds. It's the knowledge that she has outside of these walls that's happening that to me is invaluable, that we have no way of knowing that.
I agree with you 100%.
Yeah.
But I would like to have 3 of her.
Yeah.
So that the more people with their finger on the pulse.
Yeah.
Because she can't, or he or whoever is in that position, can't keep their pulse on 6,000 students.
Absolutely.
So that's just a concern and fear that I have.
Yep, absolutely. And thank you for jumping in last minute. We really appreciate it.
Yeah.
Of course.
Thanks, Kristen.
Absolutely. Any other questions or comments,
No.
Kristen? All right. Then can I get a motion to approve our school safety plans?
I move that we approve our school safety plans.
Can I get a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 4-0. Next is approval of Resolution 2026-10, African American History Month.
Yes, February is African American History Month, and we are asking that you approve this resolution honoring the contributions of African Americans to our history.
Great. Any questions or comments? All right. Can I get a motion to approve the Resolution 2026-10, African American History Month?
I'll motion to approve.
Can I get a second?
I second.
Roll call.
Trustee Johnson,
Yes.
Trustee Brown,
Yes.
Trustee Martin,
Aye.
Trustee Wing.
Yes. Next is approval of Resolution 2026-11 for Cotati Roanoke Park Unified School District to enter into a transaction with the California Department of Social Services for the purpose of providing childcare and development services.
Yes, we are always looking for additional resources to be able to support our youngest learners. And there was a funding opportunity for us to be able to apply and qualify. We need the board to be aware of it and to pass a resolution. So we're asking for your approval of this resolution to see if we can receive additional funding to provide more early childhood opportunities.
All those in favor of more funding? Can I get a motion to approve resolution? Yeah, we're just going straight to the end. Approval of resolution 2026-11. Get a motion?
I move.
A second?
I'll second.
All, roll call.
Roll call.
Trustee Johnson?
Yes.
Trustee Brown?
Yes.
Trustee Martin?
Aye.
Trustee Wing?
Yes. Approval of the 2024-25 School Accountability Report Card, published during the 25-26 school year.
So the school accountability report cards are the public-facing document. They're on our website. They give a brief overview of our schools, the demographics, the test scores. It's really it's one of the things that parents and community members go to. It's in a language that is not jargony as the way we speak in education. It is language that's accessible to families. So they're often used to identify performing schools and parents who are looking for different opportunities, and they get an understanding of what kind of programs each of the schools offer.
Great. And these are SARCs, right?
They're called SARCs, correct.
When they say SARC, this is it. Any questions or discussion? All right, can I get a motion to approve the 24-25 School Accountability Report Card?
All motion?
Can I get a second? I'll second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 4-0. Next, F to L minus H are first readings of board policies and administrative regulations. Are there any questions or discussion about any of those policies? All right. Next up is acceptance of gifts and donations to schools and district.
Yes, thank you. So Monte Vista received a monetary donation from Alan and Donna Johnson for $500. And Rancho Cotati Track and Field received a donation from Donna Young in the amount of $500. We thank our community members for continuing to support our schools, and the total is $1,000.
Thank you. Can I get a motion to accept the gifts and donations?
I move.
Can I get a second?
All second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 4-0. We have one public comment for future business and agenda items, so I would like to invite Miguel Cruz Perez to the podium. And I didn't say this when the last public comment has, but just to remind the public, we can only listen, we can't respond back. That violates board policy, and there is a 3-minute time limit.
I want a future agenda item to be the deficits not being to terminate district staff. I am not going to sugarcoat the situation we are facing today. I want to first state that this issue is always widespread in every school. I'm sure even around the world. But that does not excuse the lack of ethics aimed towards erasing the necessity to make my people feel safer. From my understanding, the district has overspent $5 million in the last fiscal year that will result in the termination of many district workers. I stand before you to advocate for the retention of our district community legion, Idalia Topete, who works day and night to better our school safety by allowing the 50% of Rancho Cotati students, ethnicity identifying Hispanic students. She is a foundation for Mecha Club, where she not only supports our school, but also technology high school students. I cannot stand around as a district terminates people when they can cut in other things. Budgeting is hard. I personally do it and have to do it for the other clubs I participate in. As shown in the public record of 2023 to 2024, to the budget of 2024 to 2025, the spending shows an increase in benefit spending from $28.12 million to $30.63 million. and in service and operating from 19.71 million to 21.24 million. I stand against cutting off someone's full-time job instead of eliminating unnecessary expenses, such as more than $500,000 for site vans for athletic and large amounts put towards budget stabilized reserve. I believe that with an itemized list of costs over the years, there should be enough leeway to keep our community legion Idalia. I know the students of Mecha and Rancho Cotati and Technology High School stand with me. I, Miguel Cruz Perez, the president of Mecha and LSU of Rancho Cotati High School.
Thank you. All right. Trustee Johnson, any future business or agenda items?
None at this time.
Trustee Brown?
Nope.
None for me.
School board members? Anything? All right, then we have nothing there. Then if there is nothing else, we will close the meeting at 8:21.